G'day guys and welcome to another build video. Today I am going to be showcasing the Plague Knight Pathfinder. Now this build was inspired by one of my commenters on the Witch Hunter video suggesting I try Bleed and Plague Burst combo. So shout out to them, you know who you are. Before we get started, I am going to be having a written guide linked in the description and hopefully in the pinned comment as well. So if you want some details, a lot more than this video will provide, go check out that guide. Let's move to the skills first. Minimize all these. Raise shield. We use raise shield quite often when we're facing bosses. We will of course raise it whenever anything big and heavy comes down on us to survive. Apart from that, we don't usually use it, I guess. I just throw it in every now and then just to increase my defenses while I'm mapping. Easy stuff. Our primary skill is our Leap Slam ability. This is how we spread the initial bleed and poison. Now to go over what we're doing here, let's first go over how Bursting Plague works in conjunction with Bleed and Herald of Blood. It is kind of an infinite loop setup and a autobomber, I suppose, because we are using Wind Dancer to also apply the Bleed and Poison. So, let's start with Herald of Blood. Herald of Blood will explode an enemy when they die, causing some physical damage. It cannot cause bleed. However, we still attach bleed to it because our Bursting Plague can apply bleed. Bursting Plague explodes for a maximum of 20% of the enemy's life when they die. You can see this already escalating. Herald of Blood explodes, causing a Plague Explosion. The Plague Explosion applies poison with our poison support and bleed with our bleed support. This then spreads with escalating poison with the additional poison stack, and of course, increased magnitude of poison using deadly poison. It's just how we apply this death, I suppose. So up at Leap Slam, we have, of course, Bleed Chance, Poison, Bursting Plague, our core setup for this build. We also go ahead and add Life Leech and Defy. Life Leech is to keep us alive a little bit longer because we don't have a whole lot of life regen going, unless you manage to get that in your build, in your gear, which we'll cover later. I highly suggest Life Leech. We also have Defy because we are going to be classed as surrounded all the time. That means once we hit 0 mana, we can still cast our Leap Slam. Good stuff. On to our secondary ability. This is for bossing. We switch over and we use our supercharged slam. So weapon slot 2 or 1, whatever. It doesn't matter which one you use as long as you have a two-hander. You can go without the two-hander for a very long time, but once you get to endgame bossing, you're going to want to have this. This creates a shockwave per charge. As you can see on the top of the screen, we are charging it up. A fully qualityed one can get up to 4 charges, and each charge causes a shockwave. We have linked this with Aftershock to have a 35% chance to cause an additional Aftershock. So hopefully we can apply those bleeds. Every single Aftershock will apply a stack of bleed because we have, poison, because we have poison. We don't actually apply bleed with supercharged slam. That is for clear mainly. We have also linked it with deadly poison to increase the magnitude of the poison, and heft to increase the overall hit. Poison is calculated by either both physical damage and chaos damage. We are obviously boosting up the physical damage to make those poisons really, really heavy hitting. Now we use efficiency, 40% less cost, because for some reason Defy will not allow it to charge past its full thing. Let's go ahead and... It will only use its initial effect if we use Defy. But with Efficiency, at least we can get a decent charge out of it while we're also spamming our mana. For bossing, I would suggest initiating with a 4 charge. Each charge requires 1 second of time. After the initial hit, you're going to want to try and charge to 1 charge, or if you can, charge it to 2 charges. And that's really about it. Unless you have a very large window in the fight, I'd suggest not going with the full 4 charges. Now going over to the autobomber side of things, we have Wind Dancer. We have Bleed, Poison, Corrosion, Deadly Poison, and of course, Bursting Plague. Bursting Plague synergizing with Bleed as well continuously. Now we use Corrosion here because that allows us to stack our Scavenged Plate. Scavenged Plate, of course, will increase the amount of armor we have by 40%, I believe. And we have that linked to Prolonged Duration, so it doesn't expire before we can stack even more. I also have Physical Mastery and Clarity 1 linked up there, simply just because we have no investment in mana whatsoever. And sometimes we kind of want to use mana, so this just increases the amount of regeneration that we get from our flasks, the speed that we get it. And of course Physical Mastery, because we can't really link anything else with physical, with Scavenged Plating. Right, you get the gist now. We jump in, we leap slam, everything around us explodes in an infinite poison and blood explosion, and we laugh manically. And on bosses, we go in, we start with the 4 slam, and then we follow up with a 1 slam or a 2 slam while repositioning around the enemy. It's a very, very, very simple skill usage build, but kind of a weird setup build. Skills are done. Moving over to the gear section. We have our main 2-hander here. I have a skin applied, so it's not going to actually look like this. I just thought it looked cool. We have a physical mace with +6 to all attacks. That is important that you get the +6 to all attacks and as high as physical flat damage as possible. Do not worry about DPS. We don't care about DPS, we would care about flat physical damage. And because Wind Dancer scales off the damage that the weapon does. Not, as well as the levels from global modifiers, of course, but not the DPS. It has its own cooldown. It doesn't care about how much damage you can output per second with your weapon. It cares about how much damage your weapon can do in one hit. So we go as much physical damage as possible, because Wind Dancer will be going off when we are bossing as well, applying that armor debuff. And of course we want the highest possible hit for our poisons. Moving over to weapon slot 2, very much the same mentality here with our single club. We are using a high physical damage with a +4 to all attack skills. Over here on the shield, we are going to want to get 8% additional physical damage reduction, and you are going to want to get the armor also applies to elemental damage. Those 2 modifiers are very, very important, but generally you want to also get life and resistance if you need them, of course. Over on the rings are very, very basic, very straightforward. Get your resistances, get life, if you can get added physical damage and rarity, but they're not that important. Over here on the amulet, we allocate lasting trauma. Lasting trauma is all the way over here. It is a 5% reduced attack speed. However, we get 30% increased magnitude of ailments you inflict, and 20% increased duration of damaging ailments on enemies. A massive damage boost to us if we get that. Now, you are going to want to get the +2 to level of all melee skills as well, because the melee skills, obviously we are using melee skills, but also Wind Dancer scales off melee skills. And resistances, life, the basics. Moving on over to the boots. Now, on the boots, you're going to want to get an armor pair, only armor. and you are going to want to get the armor also applies to elemental damage. Of course, 30% movement speed, that's a given though. But you want armor also applies to elemental damage on this boot. As higher armor as you can possibly get, the generic life resistances, whatever you can find. Over here on the hands, we need the +2 to level of all melee skills. We need increased life. And you need to be socketing the 15% increased magnitude of damaging ailments on these gloves. Continuing on with that socket, we get the Darkness Enthroned Fine Belt. You want to get at least 99%. If you get 100, awesome. They're kind of expensive. 99% is just fine. Get one of these, and you want the gloves version. It needs to be the gloves version, otherwise you will not be able to socket these sockets, which each give 15% increased magnitude of damaging elements you inflict, which totals to 58% increased magnitude of damaging ailments with the 99% increased effect modifier. Over on the chest piece. Oh, I did mention that gloves are only armor. Very important, gloves are only armor. On the body armor, pure evasion. Don't care about armor on the body armor. Get evasion. And get the modifier gain and deflection rating equal to whatever of evasion rating. Of course, the highest possible roll you can get, and get the highest evasion rating you can get. We want as much tank as humanly possible. For the helmet, this is why we can have free leap slams, as well as some other crazy modifiers which we'll cover in the passive tree. This is constricting command. And its most important feature there is require 5 fewer enemies to be surrounded. Now it is very important that you get the 5 fewer enemies to be surrounded, because that is the limit where it means every... Let me think for a second. Lost my train of thought. It means that we are always surrounded. Not every enemy is surrounded. We are always surrounded, because that's how that surrounded mechanic works. Right, now that we know that we are surrounded, we're going to move on to the passive trees. Let me just quickly cover the charms. Of course, always get a freeze charm. Freeze is death. If you get frozen, you're going to die most of the time. We get the bleed charm, so we do not bleed, and it creates concentrated ground. And we also get for Utopia, when we become stunned, we defend with 200% of our armor during effect, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Moving over to the passive tree, let's go ahead and zoom on out. We'll hit up the Ascendencies first. Now, we are going to get Contagious Contamination because we are not using the Herald of Plague skill. However, I do suggest if you manage to get an item piece with an additional 30 spirit, get Herald of Plague, because it is going to increase our overall damage because of a unique gem that I'm going to cover very soon. You will see that soon. We also grab the Overwhelming Toxicity, which is doubles the damage of your poisons, double the number of poisons, rather, that targets can be affected by at the same time. 35% less poison duration. Beautiful Staffs allows us to stack very large amounts of poison. I think I saw 8. I think it goes up to 8. Next we get the Traveler's Wisdom, which gives us a total of 6 additional passive skill points, which is absolutely lovely for this build because we travel quite far. And over here we have Relentless Pursuit, which is your speed is unaffected by slows. That means temporal chains, icy chilly ground, and tangling vines do not affect you. You don't care about those at all. Let's have a look at our gems first of all. We have Prison of Belief. This is a +3 to all supercharged slam skills. Now usually this skill is, this gem is really expensive, but this is an off-meta build. No one's using this gem. This gem cost me like a divine, I think. Very cheap. Let's cover this one over here. Right, we have From Nothing, paths in radius of Oasis can be allocated without being connected to your tree. That means we can grab all these really cool nodes down here. We have fast-acting toxin applied, as well as escape strategy and careful consideration. We are also using this to use for our two-handed weapon set. Because we use specific shield passives, I wanted to make sure that the two-handed got at least a little bit of extra bonus stuff. So we just increased the speed and magnitude of our poisons when we're holding it two-handed. Moving on to our other unique gem, it is the Megalomaniac. And the most important thing here is Agonizing Calamity. Now, I mentioned before that the Herald of Plague would boost our damage. Well, this is why. Of course, we are always using Herald of Blood, which will increase our damage by 40%. If we do happen to add a Herald of Plague, that'll increase chaos damage while affected by Herald by 40%, and poison is chaos damage, so it's beneficial. We just don't usually fit it. We're getting this for the 40% increase of physical, really. Now you can get whatever the hell you want on it as a bonus. I managed to get consecutive attack, which was pretty lucky because it worked well with the build. Did a 25% increased attack damage and 5% chance to daze on hit. Beautiful stuff. This is a pretty standard poison tree. We, of course, are grabbing pretty much all of the poison nodes as we go along. Just to mention, this is not a leveling build. This is an endgame build, so please do be leveled before jumping into this. As we go ahead, we grab all these poison nodes. Now, this one here, Toxic Tolerance, it's kind of like optional. I like it just because it allows me to be immune to poison, but you can completely just ignore it and get a 3 additional skill points to put somewhere else if you want. Up to you. Totally up to you. Yep, so all the poison nodes are there. We grab all these, and of course we move on down the tree to Deterioration, which is amazing. Good stuff. Now for our weapon set 2, we are using Spiked Shield. 2% increased attack damage per 75 item armor and evasion rating on equipped shield, and 50% increased defenses from equipped shield, which is absolutely amazing because we get really, really tanky with our shield. Moving on down, let's get to the good stuff here. The reason we are down this end of the tree is the surrounded nodes. Each one of these nodes will increase either our defense or our offense with attack damage, as well as our attack speed, surrounded effect, regeneration rate, deflection rating, block rating, movement speed, and just pure attack damage. That is a total, including this one bad boy down here, is a total of 270% increased attack damage, 120% increased armor invasion rating, 20% attack speed, 30% block, 10% deflection, 10% movement speed, 40% ailment and stun threshold, and 2.5% life regeneration. Beautiful stuff. Let's cover defense now. Right, we grab the +1 evasion rating per 1 armor on equipped gloves, and we grab gain 8% of evasion rating as extra armor. This is why we grab armor on the gloves, by the way. And of course we have these two over here, which increases evasion depending on whether or not we get hit recently or not, which is kind of balances itself out. This one here is really only if you can't get the 5. Requires fewer than 5. Only if you can't get the 5, get this little one here in the middle. Okay? Generally, you can put that elsewhere. This is a level 91 build. So, yeah, feel free to not use that and put it elsewhere. I think that pretty much covers the basics. Yeah, we just got some physical damage there. As you are leveling, if you level past this point, I suggest getting the material solidification, as well as the splinters. That will help with clearing and bossing. I believe that covers everything on the passive skill tree. Let's have a look. We have covered skills. We have covered gear. we have covered the passive tree. Now, do remember that this one here, optional, if depending on whether or not you have the +5, and this one here is optional depending on whether you want it or not. Just some examples, this will be listed in the fully written guide, so please do check that out. Now, enjoy the showcase. Bye-bye.